If you never received a stimulus check from the government during the COVID pandemic, you might be in line to receive one now. 7 News reporter Brendan McNamara joins us live in the studio with how you might qualify. Brendan.
Steve, the IRS is distributing another round of stimulus checks to those who never received one using leftover funds from the pandemic. The IRS previously issued 3 rounds of checks during the pandemic, meaning most people are not eligible for this round. The IRS found that many people who filed a tax return in 2021 did not claim the recovery rebate claim even though they were eligible, which resulted in the funds going unspent. Now, the maximum amount of money you could receive is $1,400, but not everyone will qualify for that amount.
There's a letter coming saying that you are eligible and will receive a check for a certain amount. I think they want to do this, it'll be near the end of January. They're basically clearing out money that is left over from the pandemic stimulus.
Now, according to the IRS, about $2.4 billion in stimulus money will be sent to an estimated 1 million people. All eligible taxpayers will receive the money via direct deposit or paper checks. The IRS has said no action must be taken by the taxpayers to determine whether they are eligible for the checks. The IRS expects the checks to be received by late January. For additional information regarding how payments are calculated or eligibility determined, follow the link on our website, WTRF.com. Reporting live in the 7 News studio, I'm Brendan McNamara, working for you.
A mystery blast in Melbourne's east has turned parts of a van into dangerous missiles. The driver collapsed, but incredibly, no one was killed as debris was sent flying.
The blast was so powerful, only the shell of the van was left. It exploded, then burst into flames in Nunawading around 9:40 this morning.
It sounded like a bomb, to be honest.
An incredibly loud explosion. I felt it in my heart, I felt it in the house, like through the floor.
Nearby CCTV captured the boom. The air conditioner repairman was standing so close to his vehicle.
He was beside the van.
Blood coming out of his forehead, arms, mouth, ears.
He seemed to be barely conscious.
The intensity of the shockwave smashed dozens of windows in nearby houses.
Cars, windows gone, front windows are gone, front doors kind of gone too.
And a chunk of his car. The fence next to the van slammed, ladders flew off and debris flew into yards nearby, some landing on roofs. Its windscreen in a yard 4 houses away. This twisted piece of the van flew across Springfield Road, another way up a nearby driveway. Its number plate became a missile too. And directly over the road from the explosion, a garage door was destroyed and wedged deep inside the carport, the entire side panel of the van. The plumber is tonight in a stable condition in the Alfred Hospital.
But at the moment, the fire is not suspicious. Probable attribute to some welding gases within the vehicle.
Paul Dowsley, 7 News.
An arsonist has been left red-faced and in pain after attempting to firebomb a burger shop in Melbourne's east. As Ollie Haig explains, the bumbling bandit set himself on fire and got caught with his pants down as he tried to escape.
They had all the gear but clearly no idea as sparks fly onto this crook's clothing.
It would appear that the intention was to torch the entire business.
Instead, the bumbling bandit sets fire to himself during an attempt to torch this Doncaster East burger shop, caught with his pants down as he tries to get away.
I would imagine the offender is pretty embarrassed, but we also have concerns for his welfare, as if you look at the footage, there's high probability of severe burns to his lower legs.
Police today releasing security camera vision to get to the bottom of the Christmas Day attack. This white Toyota Tarago seen picking up the offenders before heading east on Doncaster Road.
We have concerns for public safety as a local residential building had to be evacuated for this fire.
The business was again unsuccessfully torched in the early hours of Tuesday morning, although this time the offenders gained entry to the shop. Police unable to say if the 2 incidents are linked. In the latest attack, fuel and jerry cans were dumped outside. It's left residents living above the shop in fear.
I came downstairs to find the petrol and water on the floor with the smoke doors closed. It's really distressing for senior people to be in a building like this to have to evacuate.
The family who runs the burger shop has told 9 News they have no idea why the business was targeted or who's responsible.
Goes to show that even unintentionally they may be doing high-level harm, even if their intent was not to do so due to their incompetency.
Ollie Haig, 9 News.
A popular online website has been forced to recall a children's jumper after it was found in breach of Australian safety standards. It comes after a horror incident involving an 8-year-old girl on the Fraser Coast, her mother tonight sharing an urgent warning.
On her 8th birthday, Daniela received her perfect present.
It was glow-in-the-dark, unicorn purple, everything she wanted.
Gifted to her by her grandmother, who bought it from Chinese online shopping giant Temu, which stocks products from thousands of retailers. She wore it religiously. That was until it caught alight.
You might as well just throw an accelerant on her and lit her on fire. That's how it looked.
A spark from a backyard fire pit landed on the fabric, igniting it.
It was just melting, she's screaming. And you can see that the product itself actually melted like plastic, like a plastic bag. Everyone, all the adults were in quite distress because they had seen her skin falling off her.
Daniela received burns to 13% of her body. Doctors say she's facing potentially 10 more years of surgery. The incident forcing these hoodies to be pulled from shelves. But not until 4 months later. The ACCC finding they weren't up to Australian standards and didn't have a fire warning label.
How can this be in Australia? How can they have these products that burn children?
The family have now engaged lawyers to reach a resolution with Temu.
I don't want money for personal gain. I just want my daughter to be able to have somewhat of a normal life.
Temu says they are assisting in communications with the family and are working with the ACCC to address the matter. Pat Heaney, 9 News.
It's shocking video showing the absolute devastation in the Pacific Palisades. The footage reveals mile after mile of scorched earth where beautiful homes once existed.
The devastation is complete and just jaw-dropping.
Officials now say thousands of structures have burned to the ground. Today, the Pacific Palisades is still on fire. The frustration, of course, is for firefighters. It's like a giant game of whack-a-mole. You never know where the fire is going to hopscotch. Hours ago, this house was fine, but it caught fire this morning. The entire house was decimated by flames. Dramatic footage shows a cliffside home engulfed in towering flames. It's a total loss. But less severe wind conditions did allow firefighters to finally gain the upper hand, launching water drops from helicopters to save the heart of Hollywood. Fury is growing today over the lack of water supply that has hindered firefighters as they battle fires around Los Angeles.
Our neighbor's house is going up. We're going up. There's no water.
This homeowner is irate as he records his house going up in flames while his 84-year-old father and his daughter try to douse the fire with a garden hose. Suddenly, he says, the water stops.
There's no water. I can't save my house.
He tried his best, but the water literally stopped. Not one fire trap.
Today, I found actor Steve Guttenberg with a shovel, putting out hot spots on his neighbor's property. When I grabbed a hose to help, I discovered no water.
Well, there's no water. Steve, there's no water.
Was the water turned off recently, or is it just no pressure?
There's no water at all up here.
At a press conference, LA's Mayor Karen Bass was hit with a barrage of questions about reports of fire hydrants running out of water.
The water problems are a little better now because the winds are such that we can go up and have the air support. And you know that that was the reason that the devastation was so bad, the unprecedented wind.
Joining me now is Caitlin Doran, whose entire family lost their homes in the Palisades fire. She is currently housing her grandparents, her parents, her aunt, her uncle, cousins, brother, cats, dogs, turtle, and her boyfriend. Caitlin, thank you so much for giving us some of your time here. Certainly so much devastation. Kind of talk about what the situation is like right now for you and your family.
So we are all in my house in Marina Del Rey. We have 11 adults. We have 6 dogs. We have a cat. We have a 175-pound, 23-year-old African sulcata tortoise. And the Palisades to us is just, it's so much more than a home. I'm the 5th generation Palisadian from my family. We moved there in the 1930s, one of the first families in the Palisades. I was there all day yesterday. My dad did not leave until midnight. my 84-year-old grandfather. That's a photo of our house right now, or last night, that my father took. They tried to stay as long as they could to help fight the fires because we had no services from 10:30 until midnight. When our family was there, we didn't see one fire truck in the neighborhood. I mean, this is the house that my mom raised her family in, and across the street is the house that she grew up in the Palisades. We're neighbors with my grandparents. My aunt and uncle live 3 streets down with their 2 kids and dog, and we've lived here our whole life. My grandparents met at Palisades Elementary, and it's gone. So we're all at the house in the marina. We're all safe. We're all happy to be here. We didn't save anything other than the Lazy Susan that my grandfather built that was in their backyard. My brother was able to run in and grab that. So at least we have our Sunday night dinner tradition still going. But I mean, it's beyond devastation.
Yeah. So many memories, Caitlin. How difficult was it for them to leave? I mean, you said your dad didn't leave till 10 o'clock last night. How difficult was it? Yeah.
It was like pulling teeth. I evacuated my grandparents and Tortoise at about 3:30 down to the 800 block of Hartselle, and then I got Tiptoe over to the marina. And it took me 5 minutes from being out of the Palisades before my grandparents and mom and dad returned to their houses. It was not an easy way to get them out. I mean, we didn't get my 84-year-old grandfather out of there until about 8:30, and he was on his front lawn with a hose in hand. You'll see it right here, but he had a hose in hand. He's trying to save his home, trying to save their family memories. I mean, they didn't take anything from the house because it's not about what's inside. It was just, they did what they could. And, you know, you got guys that are just, they're trying to save their community and, you know, putting fires out at the neighbors' houses, utilizing everybody's, you know, we're just trying, but the water turned off. And like I said, we had no support from any fire truck or anything, which there were too many fires to allocate resources. But
yeah, there really were. What does the neighborhood look like? What did it look like, Caitlin, when you last saw it? I mean, is anything left?
When we last saw it, we were driving out during the flames. I've gotten a few photos from friends and videos, and I mean, there's nothing there. There one house, the house on Bashford and Iliff on the top of the 900 block, it already has a notice of demolition because they were going to tear it down anyways. But that house is there. So one house in the Alphabet Streets at least. I'm going to head up there this afternoon to take a look at it. But for the most part, I mean, we're all going to be starting from scratch. But the Palisades is such a strong community. I mean, we're a small town in a big city, and we really are a close-knit community. So, you know, what are we going to do? But everything's gone. We don't have a school, grocery stores, but you know, I've gotten such powerful messages from friends, family, people out of the state that I haven't talked to in years that are ready to head to the Palisades with a shovel. So
I want to talk about that, Caitlin. I mean, you mentioned your tortoise there, and I mentioned the tortoise out of, you know, all of the family members, because you and your tortoise also have a big following on social media. What has been the reaction online?
Well, yeah, Tiptoe, I got him when I was 7 from Santa Claus. I started making videos of him on TikTok during the COVID time. Everybody just needed a little bit of a smile on their face, and I really can't find anything that's going to make you smile more than a 175-pound happy tortoise. So he has 4.5 million followers on TikTok, and it's beyond words to see the amount of support that's been shown. This video that's being shown right now, we spent the last 3 months constructing Tiptoe a new house, his forever home. It was my last big project with my 84-year-old grandfather. I mean, he's getting old. He loves to do construction, but, you know, this was our last project. We unfortunately lost that new Tiptoe house.
Live now is Emergency Management Minister Jenny McAllister. Minister, thanks so much for coming on the program. We heard there from the President that Canada is sending assistance to Los Angeles. Is Australia going to be doing the same in terms of aid or personnel or firefighting assets?
We are yet to receive any response for assistance, but of course, as always, we stand ready to assist our friends in the United States we'll do everything we responsibly can should a request come before us. And there's a long history of cooperation between our countries on firefighting. We actually had personnel in the US over the course of 2024, and of course we've had received great benefit from US personnel coming to Australia in years previous as well.
They helped us a lot in the Black Summer bushfires. Have we offered to send assistance over there?
Yes, we've reached out through diplomatic channels and made it clear that we're ready to assist. But of course, it's for the US authorities to define what they require, and we'll do everything we responsibly can to support them should they make a request of us.
Yeah, we are in our peak bushfire season right now. Do we have the assets to spare?
Look, it would depend on the nature of the request, and it's difficult to speculate about it in the absence of a specific request. We'd assess it. We'd assess, of course, our own needs, but we'll do everything we, as I say, responsibly can to help our colleagues in the United States if they ask us.
These fires are unprecedented. Are these LA fires raising concerns for you that the US and Canada may not be able to spare firefighters in their winter months in the future as these fire seasons change or extend?
Look, I think all Australians will see the scenes coming out of Los Angeles and be just as heartbroken as I am to see the impact on these communities. They are devastating. And we know that right across the world, we are seeing longer fire seasons and more intense fire weather. That's true in the United States, and it's true for us. Cooperation will continue to be a feature of how we manage our fire seasons here in Australia and right across the world. But we do know we've got to step up. We've received advice from the scientists very clearly for years that these kinds of circumstances are going to arise more frequently, and we are going to confront fire seasons that in some instances will be unprecedented. It's why we've made the investments we have as a government. In our last budget, we significantly increased the resources available for aerial firefighting. We're now putting in $48 million a year. That's allowed us to secure not only the large air tanker, but also the 3 heavy lift helicopters. And we can use those assets for firefighting, but also in other emergencies like floods and cyclones. We've also made some really other significant investments in preparedness so that Australia can actually be confident that our government can step in and support the states and territories when emergencies like this arise.
Okay, accept that, Minister, but during a bad fire season, we need about 7 large air tankers, but we only own 1. We lease the rest from North America. Is our access to those aircraft becoming affected as fire seasons extend in both hemispheres? And do we need to buy a full fleet of large air tankers and be more self-sufficient? Is this a wake-up call?
You're right that we need to step up the volume and the availability of aircraft, and that's why we've made the investments we have. We did so on the advice of the fire chiefs, and we constantly work with them to ensure that we're securing the kind of assets that are appropriate for the conditions that present at the time. To date, the advice have been that the leasing arrangements we've had are the best way to secure a sufficiently flexible fleet to meet a changing fire environment. But we do need to assess and review that. We've commissioned a review, it's underway, and we expect to receive the results from that this year.
Time is pressing. Jenny McCallum.
Our next story is about something that happened in India's Kerala. You have probably come across the video we're about to talk about. Before we go any further, let's just warn you here. The video, the footage, the story is disturbing, so viewer discretion is advised. This is what we are talking about. This video has gone viral now, by the way. It shows an elephant lifting a man and swinging him in the air. What you see right there is scary indeed. In fact, at least 17 people were injured, one of them critically. There were scenes of absolute panic. Most injuries were reportedly the result of the stampede-like situation due to the panic. Just for context, this was during an annual festival in Kerala. But that footage is only what you see and one part of the story. You see, what happened is indicative of something extremely important that might not get talked about enough. While what happened is obviously unfortunate and disturbing, and one can't be too sure of what triggered the incident in Kerala. We've all heard about multiple accounts focusing on the debate around man versus wild. This incident had people reacting and commenting on the video saying, man's actions have consequences. Again, we don't know what happened and what led to this incident really, but what we are saying is that this heart-wrenching incident, this piece of footage, is a strong reminder about something we've all grown up listening to. Animals are not mute spectators. They are living beings. They also have feelings, just like us. Again, let's be clear, we don't know if those around that animal at that point should have done more or less, done something, not done something. As of now, there aren't clear answers, not enough details. But the larger point being, if in any way an animal around you is not getting the help or the care that they deserve, the onus lies on us humans to set that right.
Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram and Threads, has ignited controversy with sweeping changes to its moderation policies. The new guidelines allows users to accuse LGBTQ individuals of mental illness, shocking many who once viewed Meta as an ally. This dramatic shift starkly contrasts with the platform's 2021 ban of Donald Trump for inciting violence during the January 6 Capitol riots. Critics have called the move a dangerous rollback of protections for marginalized groups. Here's more on the about face by the social media giant.
Social media platforms bridge gaps and connect people worldwide. However, they also serve as tools for hate, misinformation, and abuse. And Meta's latest policy changes have raised significant concerns, especially among the LGBTQ+ community and human rights groups. This Tuesday, Meta updated its moderation guidelines for Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. The changes now allow accusations of mental illness against LGBTQ+ individuals, specifically regarding their gender identity or sexual orientation. If that wasn't enough, Meta's revamped guidelines will now also tolerate terms like weird, address women to be household objects, and black people as farm equipment. Of course, just like many other times, Meta justified this move and cited political and religious discourse around homosexuality and transgenderism.
So we built a lot of complex systems to moderate content. But the problem with complex systems is they make mistakes. Even if they accidentally censor just 1% of posts, that's millions of people. And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms.
This adjustment has sparked outrage among advocacy groups, which accuse Meta of enabling hate speech.
Without these necessary hate speech and other policies, Meta is giving the green light for people to target LGBTQ people, women, immigrants, and other marginalized groups with violence, vitriol, and dehumanizing narratives. With these changes, Meta is continuing to normalize anti-LGBTQ hatred for profit at the expense of its users and true freedom of expression.
Meta's overhaul extends beyond LGBTQ+ issues. The company has also scrapped policies prohibiting insults based on race, ethnicity, national origin, disability, and gender identity.
I think that this is a bit politically motivated, but I also think that there has been a huge push worldwide for these changes to happen. The oversight board, for example, with Meta was an interesting experiment, and obviously, it's not going to continue in its current form, but there will be implications from it.
After the major policy reforms, CEO Mark Zuckerberg also announced a major shift in fact-checking. Zuckerberg explained Meta will replace its trusted organizational partners with a community-driven system similar to X's community notes.
First, we're going to get rid of fact-checkers and replace them with community notes similar to X, starting in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system.
Meta's current stand contrasts sharply with its previous policies. In 2021, the company suspended President-elect Donald Trump's accounts on Facebook and Instagram for 24 hours and then extended the ban for 2 years. This action followed posts he made during the US Capitol riots, which were deemed a severe violation of Meta's rules. But with the latest policy changes, similar posts may not likely see a ban on the account and would be corrected by community notes instead. These recent developments signal a U-turn in Meta's approach to moderation. Policies that once protected users from hate and abuse now appear relaxed. For example, while the former US president faced consequences for inciting unrest, today's changes suggest greater leniency towards harmful speech. But who doesn't want to be friends with the president? It seems like Zuckerberg is doing everything to join Trump's inner circle, even if it means more hate speech online. From meeting the president-elect at his Florida residence to the company donating $1 million for his second inauguration, the tech giant is doing everything to be in Trump's good books, including appointing hardcore Trump supporters to its board like UFC CEO Dana White. Meta's policy changes have profound implications for online discourse. By allowing targeted accusations and removing protective guidelines, the platform risks becoming a breeding ground for hate and misinformation. Once a champion of safeguarding speech, Meta now faces accusations of abandoning its responsibilities. And critics ask, how far will Zuckerberg go with his political agendas?
The province's 444 municipalities, part of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, released a groundbreaking report today that shows the most accurate picture to date I've ever seen of homelessness across the entire province. So what we heard today is the association went out to 47 service managers across the province, and these are the folks who kind of dole out the money and deal with social housing and homelessness and some of these other types of issues. So they're able to glean data from those 47 service managers to sort of paint this picture that shows there are more than 80,000 people who experienced homelessness in 2024. And they also found that about half of those, a little more than 40,000 people, had been either living in shelters or on the streets for 6 months or longer. What the association is saying today that the problem is getting worse. Homelessness has increased by 25% in the last 2 years alone, and they expect it to continue to get worse unless some sort of bold action is taken by the provincial and federal governments. They are looking for $11 billion over 10 years to solve homelessness in order to give everyone a home, be that supportive housing or affordable housing. And they figure they would need about 75,000 or so of those units. They figure they need about another $2 billion to house everyone in encampments. So far to date, they haven't received anywhere near that kind of money. It's the province has been spending quite a bit of money on its approach to mental health, but what the association is saying is that essentially that's nowhere near enough if you really want to take action and get everyone a place to live.
Well, New South Wales health authorities are urging people to take extra steps to protect themselves from mosquitoes, with 2 nasty mosquito-borne infections detected in the state's west. Our reporter Miles Holbrook-Walk joins us now from Sydney. G'day, Miles. What have authorities found?
Well, Casey, let's start with their most recent discovery in Moree in the northwest of New South Wales. It was there that among mosquito populations locally, after routine testing that they conduct every year, they've found cases of Japanese encephalitis. This is a very serious mosquito-borne disease and can kill people in its worst symptoms. Troubling still for authorities is that in December last year, barely a month ago, it was discovered in Griffith. This is a long way south of Moree in the west of New South Wales, this time in the southern reaches of the state. Then, not long after that Griffith discovery, among feral pigs in the population there in the Narromine Shire there, it was discovered yet again. That's led authorities to declare that they do believe that Japanese encephalitis is widespread across New South Wales and have now flagged several areas of concern. Compounding that is you've got another particularly nasty, as you say, mosquito-borne virus, Murray Valley encephalitis, discovered in Cowra and West Wyalong, this time among chicken populations, sentinel chickens to be specific. All of this has seen them designate 55 local government areas, largely in regional and in some cases remote parts of New South Wales. But of course, at this time of the year, people travel around regularly, whether it's to see family, to go on holidays. Some of these places are incredibly popular camping spots and have particularly amenable climates for mosquitoes, not just because of this time of year, but also the habitat and conditions where they can prove to be particularly nasty. Now, what to look out for? Both of these diseases, if you've been bitten by a mosquito, typically it's obviously itchy, but you will feel significant symptoms if you've got either of these viruses. Things like disorientation, particularly stiffness around the neck, that could be an indication of brain sweltering. If you have that, definitely go to a GP, and if it gets particularly bad, go to a hospital. There is no vaccine for Murray Valley encephalitis, however there is one for Japanese encephalitis, and that can be distributed to people in high-risk areas through local health clinics in particular. Of course, the best prevention and medicine against this is not getting bitten by mosquitoes. That can be tough in a lot of parts of the country at this time of year, but things like using repellent, making sure in your home you've got fly screens or other insect guards on your windows and doors where insects may be able to travel in and out of, particularly mosquitoes, as well as long, loose-fitting clothes. Things like long-sleeve shirts and pants are particularly the trick, especially if you're out camping or out and about at dusk or dawn, catching a sunrise or sunset. That's the advice there. Thankfully, though, and it's important to make a clear distinction here, there have been no cases recorded in humans in New South Wales yet of either of these mosquito-borne diseases. So it's certainly a case people should be alert and take necessary precautions, but at this stage no cases of the virus discovered among either virus, I should say, discovered among human populations. Casey?
Members of the Chadian military cheered after an hour-long battle which thwarted an attempt by a group of gunmen to overrun the presidential complex in N'Djamena on Wednesday evening. Most of the attackers were killed, as well as one guard. The Chadian foreign minister downplayed the possibility that it could have been an attack by a terrorist group such as Boko Haram, characterizing the assailants as intoxicated.
I don't find it credible that this was a terrorist act, as I was at the scene. However, the public prosecutor will provide clarification on the matter. In reality, they are a group of amateurs. They had no weapons of war. Their attempt was disorganized and completely incomprehensible.
The attack came just hours after a visit from Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi. Wang met with Chadian senior officials as he tours Africa to tout China as a reliable development partner. Chad and China signed an economic cooperation agreement last week.
You have arrived at a time when Chad has decided to free itself from the tutelage of foreign forces on its territory and to turn resolutely towards development. Who better than China to be an effective development partner?
Chad terminated its military agreements with France in November, marking the end of 60 years of military cooperation and the departure of French troops from the country.
Now the war rages on between Russia and Ukraine. In the latest, at least 13 people were killed and 29 others injured after Russian guided missiles struck Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia. This comes ahead of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's meeting with allies in Germany. Authorities in Zaporizhzhia said that high-rise apartment buildings, an industry facility, and other infrastructure were damaged during the attack. The resulting debris and remnants fell on a tram and a bus. They also added that the death toll could go up further. Emergency workers continued their rescue operations amidst raging flames, smoke, and burnt cars. According to Zaporizhzhia governor, Russia used 2 guided bombs to strike the region. In response to this, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky condemned the attacks in a post on X. He also urged allies to exert more pressure on Russia. Furthermore, Zelensky will be attending a defense meeting with Kyiv's allies. The meeting is set to be hosted by the United States at the Ramstein Air Base in Germany. Ahead of the defense meeting, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said that the American leadership is critical for Ukraine. He also added that the continued assistance from Washington holds the key in stopping Moscow's aggression over Kyiv. And as Russia's military gains momentum on the battlefield, Ukraine is facing an internal crisis.
A surge in desertions is depleting its ranks at an important juncture in the war, with manpower dwindling and morale sinking. Kyiv may be at risk of losing its footing both on the battlefield and in future ceasefire negotiations. Our next report telling you more.
Russian forces intensified their assault. Fighter jets, drones and missiles pound Ukrainian positions. Artillery shells rain down relentlessly, and Russian tanks carve through Ukrainian defenses across frozen battlefields. In this harsh winter offensive, Ukraine faces another graver challenge: desertion. Soldiers are abandoning their posts in alarming numbers, leaving critical gaps in defense lines. Even outside the battlefield, cracks are showing. In France, where the Ukrainian Brigade Anne of Kyiv is undergoing military training, dozens of soldiers have reportedly deserted. The brigade, part of an effort to bolster Ukraine's readiness for Russian offensives, now struggles with morale and discipline issues. On the Eastern Front, the desertion problems deepens. Facing relentless Russian bombardment and witnessing comrades fall, many Ukrainian soldiers are abandoning their posts. Accounts from the trenches paint a grim picture of soldiers overwhelmed by the unrelenting violence.
It happened that we were attacked. We were pulling back, and after that many of us didn't really want to return to the position. And the battalion commander started gathering the ones left, and we didn't want to attack back. That was our trigger. We wanted to live.
When you are on a position, engaged in fighting under constant shelling, it's not seen as you have a big concussion, so you're not taken to a hospital. Even just staying under constant shelling results in gradually damaged mental state. You go crazy step by step. You're all the time under stress, huge stress, and you don't control yourself anymore.
The numbers are staggering. Over 100,000 Ukrainian soldiers have been charged under desertion laws since the Russian invasion began in 2022. Compounding the crisis, Kyiv struggles to recruit new troops, leaving critical vulnerabilities as Russian forces seize territory. At the fastest rate since the war's early days. Desertion, dwindling recruitment, and relentless Russian pressure creates a perilous situation for Ukraine. The outcome could reshape the war's trajectory and determine Kyiv's leverage in future peace talks. As the crisis escalates, Ukraine must find a way to stabilize its forces or risk losing not just ground, but the war itself. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Jeg synes, det er vigtigt at holde fast i, at det på den ene side er godt, at der er en stigende amerikansk interesse for, hvad der foregår, også i Nordatlanten, også i det arktiske område, fordi nogle af de spændinger, vi ser i andre dele af verden, ja, de begynder også at komme til det arktiske område. Så jeg, som en meget, meget tæt allieret med USA, synes jeg, der er grund til at glæde sig over den stigende amerikanske interesse. Men det bliver nødt til at foregå på en måde, der er respektfuld over for det grønlandske folk, og vi bliver nødt til at kunne samarbejde på den måde, vi plejer at gøre det, blandt andet i NATO-sammenhæng og i andre internationale forer.